But once again, thank you very much for tuning into Sanjubaba show today. And guess what? We've got a fantastic personality today in our studios. And I'm excited to have the gentleman over here because of various reasons. Number one, I have known him for quite some time. And number two, he has done a lot for the community, I think, and as well as for the community with the dogs and cats and birds and horses and you name it, and he has dealt with them, right? So last week I was sitting down at home and I was thinking, what should I do and who should I call in this week for our guest appearance? And just last night it dawned on me, Dr. Walter Rowntree. Dr. Walter Rowntree. You know, when I was thinking about that name, and I thought, he'll be a great guy to talk to because he has got so much to give, so much to offer, I think, and so much to share. I've been talking to him for quite some time. And really, now that you're going to experience a lot of real life and real questionnaire with him, you might know a little bit more closer about Dr. Rowntree. Thank you so very much for coming in. Sometimes your name twists my tongue, you know, and Walter Rowntree is a pretty tough name, a lot of R's and a lot of L's and a lot of R's.
Not like Sanju Chaudhry, which just rolls off the tongue.
So, Doc, I understand you've come all the way from California. You grew up in California, and you decided to choose the Eastern Idaho, Chubbuck, Pocatello. Why Chubbuck, Pocatello from California?
Well, I took a roundabout way. I did stop in Montana briefly, 13 years. I did go to vet school at UC Davis in California.
That was my next question. You already answered. Go ahead.
Way ahead of the game.
Right.
And after a year and a half of practice in Eastern California, in the high desert, I went to Montana. And after a couple of years there, bought into a practice, bought half a practice there. Worked with a very wonderful partner up there. For 13 years, then sold my half of that practice, and with the proceeds came here and built my dream hospital.
So Chubbuck was the next step.
Chubbuck was the next step.
How did Chubbuck come to your life?
Well, there was a region that I needed to choose to open my practice in, and that was basically Idaho, Wyoming, Oregon, Washington, or someplace else in Montana, because I'd been out of vet school for 15 or 16 years by that time. And Idaho has what's called licensing reciprocity with Montana. And the bottom line of that means I didn't have to retake the national board exams to get licensed.
You don't want to stress your brains once again. Huh?
Oh, yes. The national board exams have a real reputation. They ask you questions about tuberculosis testing in chimpanzees, things we simply don't do much of, and that we've all forgotten since vet school. And the state board exams are usually fairly practical. They ask you questions that you know, but the national board exams are just set up to be not fun. And if I wanted to go anyplace else, I could have gone back to California, but anyplace else, Arizona, New Jersey, second on my list.
But you had to take this test again, TB on chimpanzees.
Yes, that's right. And so I wanted to skip that. So basically set up a big map on the wall and threw a dart at it, and it landed in Chubbuck.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Chubbuck is very, very glad to have you.
Yeah.
You know, as well as Pocatello. And I think the community has spoken a lot about you, and I personally have seen you a lot in the community, doing a lot of good things for the community, I think, and that I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
But why vet? Why become a veterinarian? Why not?
Well, originally, it's because I didn't much like people. And I thought being a veterinarian was a vocation that I could basically work on animals. But I found out...
They cannot talk back to you.
Oh, yes, they can. They just
they do. Right.
don't use words.
Okay.
But I learned fairly quickly that although you do get to work with animals, it's mostly a people job. There's the staff you work with, and of course the clients. You're really doing it as a service to them, not as a service to the animals. And learn pretty quick that if I tried it, I liked working with people, so it's worked out very well for me.
So, define this. Sometimes I really try to understand this. When I go to a physician and when I go to a vet, I see a difference in the whole decor of the hospital, maybe, or the office, or the atmosphere over there. There's a huge difference. And why is the difference? Why do we differentiate where we, in this country, as I have, you know very well, I'm an immigrant over here from India, and we have, I do not think that we have such great offices for either pets or humans in India because of the third world country. But when I come here, I see the beauty of the offices and the cleanliness and the such huge ambience, and you know, you feel better as soon as you get into any kind of a hospital like that, yours or a human hospital. So, do you have to maintain that standard, or is it required by law, or is it required by Dr. Rowntree?
You know, there's very little regulation for animal hospitals. There's no inspection. In fact, I was quite surprised to find out that the woman who cuts my hair every 5 or 6 weeks gets inspected regularly by the state licensing agency.
And not yours.
And not mine, which is
nice?
great. I think
Right.
a big part of the difference that people experience between going to a veterinarian and going to a human doctor is the level of paperwork that they're required to do, not only for the governments, but also for the insurance. And sometimes the insurance and the government are the same as in Medicare and Medicaid.
Sure.
And I've talked to human doctors, and they want to be spending more time with the patients, but they have so much paperwork to do that they just find it impossible to spend as much time as they want with the patients. I have very little in the way of paperwork to do, perhaps 15 or 20% of my time. The rest of the time is patient-oriented, client-oriented. That's one of the reasons that I think that I would much rather be delivering health care to animals than to human beings.
But also, if you've seen nowadays, I've experienced by myself, I think the expense for any of my pets, you know, has gone up a lot. Now, do you foresee any insurance coverages for pets in the future?
Certainly there's insurance available now for pets. Oh, yes. And I consider some of the companies to be quite good, and for it to be good value for your money. I don't anticipate that becoming terribly widespread. Certainly.
Why not?
I think a lot of it is, well, you know, I don't know. Maybe it will be.
Give me an example. Give me an example, Doc. For a surgery, how much does it cost?
Depending on the
surgery,
it can be $600 to $2,500. In fact, I did bring up a example of a orthopedic surgery. That's a fractured bone, a lower leg bone, and you can see, well, it's a plastic model, but it's the way this one has been stabilized. It's quite common. We do most of our bone surgeries this way.
So this bone has been fractured.
Fractured here, okay. And then this bar is outside the body. The edge of the leg is about here, and all this stuff is carried outside the body. In the old days, when veterinary medicine was much less expensive, there was only very simple surgeries that could be done on bones. A cast, which obviously takes much less time and has much less specialized equipment.
So how much would this cost to fix this?
Oh, depending how long it took, anywhere from $1,400 to $2,000. This is a relatively simple apparatus,
right? Okay.
so towards the low end. But all the equipment there is human-style equipment. In the old days, it would just be a single steel rod down the center of the bone. And those have some advantages in that they are less expensive and fairly straightforward to put in. But there are some real disadvantages during the healing process. And in some cases, the leg wouldn't heal. So we really have made a lot of improvements as far as the techniques we use, but it does get more expensive the more involved you get. Another big change is in pain control. Back when I was in vet school, there was very little discussion of pain control and virtually no FDA-approved drugs for animals. Even now, we have a very limited number of pain control drugs for animals, and we use the human drugs, human morphine, and fentanyl patches and things like that. Nowadays, an animal that comes in for a broken bone surgery will experience no pain throughout the process, whereas 20 or 30 years ago that was not the case. And for the most part, the profession simply did not put a whole lot of thought into that.
So one of my dogs, she passed away about 4 or 5 years back, and you knew about her. She had cancer. So I understand that cancer is not curable, and sometimes, God bless, with your willpower, yes, it can be, and with the personal willpower as well as the Lord being with you. But sometimes it goes to a stage where with the animals, you don't understand, you don't know that where and how it is affecting them. And by the time you come to know, it is rather little too late. So what are the symptoms of these kind of fatal diseases for animals? How do you understand that an animal has got a fatal disease, and what are their reactions? How do they react with you?
Well, the changes, we really kind of rely on the owner of the animal.
That's when I say you, it's the owner.
Yes.
How do we know? How do we know?
What they pick up on is fairly subtle changes in the animal's behavior and their outlook on life for the most part. And it can just be a decrease of perhaps 5 or 10% in the animal's activity or interest in the family and its environment. And again, that's not much of a change, and many people interpret it to ordinary aging processes. But it's those small changes that it's important for people to recognize and bring them in, because then we can often find out what the problem is. And in the case of cancer, if we pick it up early, we can either cure it surgically or treat it with chemotherapy. We're also doing a little bit of radiation therapy.
Cost on those?
The radiation therapy isn't too bad. It's only for one very specific type of cancer in cats that causes an overactive thyroid. And it's about $1,000 and is virtually 100% effective. Excellent. And virtually zero side effects. So we're very pleased to be able to offer that.
Now, every time I've been asking you numerous times about the cost, it's only because I want our people to understand, our viewers, that if they see this kind of issues or anything different on their animals, they need to immediately take them to their docs, because they can really save the animal at a very minimum cost, hopefully, compared to the human bills that we have. As soon as we see a doc, it's enormously huge.
Yes.
And nice to know that we also have this insurance policy which is kicked in. And I don't know which companies they are. If you know any of the companies, would you like sharing with us?
Well, we work with Pets Best. In fact, I buy Pets Best insurance for my staff's pets. It actually works out very well for me, because that way we get some experience with that particular company, and my staff can recommend that company with confidence to our clients, because they have direct experience with it. Also, if I didn't buy insurance for my staff's pets, I would be treating all of their animals for free. So at least I get 80% at this point.
Okay. Well, changing gears a little bit, Doc, I see that when you started by yourself in your facility, and now I know that you have got couple, 3 extra hands who are helping you out. What is the plan? Is Dr. Rowntree sitting and just watching what they're doing, or is he involved into the community more, or do you have a future plan? What is your plan?
Well, I'm still the silverbacked male down there.
Okay.
I present a vision, provide leadership, but as far as day-to-day, month-to-month management, I'm not doing any of that, which is good. I am not good at it, and my hospital manager is. I have 2 veterinarians there, Dr. Jamie Rantala, who is a full partner with me, and Dr. Pam Nolasco, who has been with us about a year now. She graduated from Washington State, the vet school over there in Pullman, about a year ago, and she is just wonderful. They both are wonderful to work with and very good veterinarians. As far as me, I've been doing more things with the community. I've been on the board of directors of the dog park committee, Bannock Bark Parks, and we've had our dog park opened now for, I guess it's less than a year. But it's already quite popular. If you go over there on a Saturday morning, you'll see lots of dogs having a good time.
What is the main attraction on a dog park?
Well, it's a place where you can get your dog out and take it off leash. The dog park is fenced, so they're not going to run out into the roads. And
so not thousands of dogs are fighting together, are they?
Well, some of that happens,
okay.
yes. One wants to be very careful and keep an eye on things. What we tell people is to evaluate what dogs are there now, and if they think that the personality of their dog is not going to mesh well with whatever personality the dog park has to offer that day, maybe they just want to take their dog on a walk. But it lets the dogs socialize and form little doggy friends, and that's always fun to watch.
Is Dr. Rowntree thinking about running for an office in the city of Chubbuck?
I am not. I perhaps see some things that I would do differently, but as far as running a city, that would be more along the lines of management running an animal hospital, which I've already found out I'm not ideal at. So I've got lots of ideas, but they should stay as ideas.
Your wonderful wife, Laura, she has come from Berkeley.
Yes.
What does she think about Chubbuck?
She likes it. She's boarding and training horses. We've got
she does?
Yes, 15 acres and an indoor riding arena north of town, and she's doing very well with that.
Excellent.
She gardens. She provides a lot of produce for the household, and she likes to get out and do outdoor activities, go on hikes, horse riding, and we're having a lot of fun with that.
There's a lot of times I see that there are some disasters somewhere in the nation or outside the country or in the city or in the county, wherever you name it. And what precautions do we take for our animals when we have disasters? Like, yes, we got to save our children, we got to save our parents. We also have our liability, we want to take care of our animals also. So what do you guys do to help us out to save those animals during the disasters that we had? For example, we had the Charlotte fire. That was a pretty sad incident which happened a year back. How can we save our animals from those kind of disasters?
Well, it is true that there's much more discussion about disaster preparedness for the humans, and if a family takes that to heart and really prepares for a disaster, for example, making things easy to evacuate, have a list, maybe a drill, something like that, and know what they need to bring along and what to leave behind. When they realize that they're out the door and evacuating and they've got an animal with them, a pet, but they haven't thought about disaster preparedness for the pet. Everything runs smoothly as anything can in a disaster, except as far as the pet goes. Well, you need to keep some emergency pet food on hand, perhaps just a case of canned food that you can grab and throw in the trunk of the car and go. Any obviously medications that the dog or cat needs. You need to have a cat carrier to transport the cat in. The biggest problem that I heard from the Charlotte fire is that people could not find all of their cats, maybe 3 out of 4, before they had to just up and go. And I'm not sure there's any real solution for that. But the way we contributed was we got a phone call saying there's all these dogs here at the staging area and no one has a leash and no one has a water bowl, and we gathered up a bunch of that. A whole lots of leashes at animal hospitals and water bowls, and we could whip out there and pass them out. And it's not much, but it's a little something that we could do.
Well, I hope you understand that we do have to carry food, medication, and diapers too, right?
One hopes not, but
this was funny to me, Doc, because once again, coming from a third world country in India, and a couple of years back, I was managing this great world, Wally World Walmart over here locally, and I could see on our shelves diapers, dog diapers and cat diapers, and about 3-4 years back, I wondered about that. I was by myself. I thought, hey, wouldn't that be a great product to bring it to the market for dogs and cats? Because in America, these people, they love their pets so much. And 2 years later, I see that on the shelves. And how effective is that?
Well, I think it was a real missed opportunity on your part.
It was.
That's a shame.
It was.
Fortunately, I have not ever had an animal which required diapers, so I don't have any direct experience with them, but I do talk to some of my clients, and they seem very pleased with the availability.
They're loving it. Well, viewers, thank you very much once again for tuning into Sanjubaba show. Dr. Walter Rowntree once again with us this afternoon, and I hope you enjoyed the information that he had shared with us today. And if there's any questions or concerns you might possibly have, you can connect with Dr. Rowntree at
Bannock Animal Medical Center, 237-3934.
237-3934, folks. Till then, for next time, tune in back again at the Sanjubaba show. We'll have somebody else over here, very interesting for you, and we'll try and find out something more about him or her within that 20 minutes time frame. Till then, take care.
recitar mentre preso dal delirio non so più quel che dico e quel che faccio eppure dopo saciati se dopo se tu sei pagliaccio la giubba e la faccia infamina, l'accende toga e ride folle qua e sai che ti vuole lo spasmo del pianto in una smaria si ghiaccia e da ride aiaccia del tuoi